Hi, I'm Jalen Rose, and welcome to the Renaissance Man podcast, proudly presented by the New York Post, a show where we cover trends in fashion, entertainment, current events, and everything in between. My next guest is the definition of a multi-hyphenate, Emmy Award-winning actor, Grammy Award-winning musician, and poet, whose career has only flourished since his breakout role as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. His career spans almost 4 decades, and my brother's showing no signs of slowing down. And by the way, he recently starred in the Fox anthology series Accused, which explores the gray areas of the justice system. It has just been renewed for a second season. It is my honor to welcome the talented Malcolm-Jamal Warner to the show. What's up, family?
My brother, good to see you, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm a huge fan. I know a ton about your journey, so I'm really excited to have you on the show. Can you tell us what it was like for you growing up in Jersey City and when you figured out you wanted to pursue acting as a kid?
Yeah, well, so I left Jersey when I was about 5.
Mm-hmm.
My parents separated. My mom moved back to California. My dad moved to Chicago. So I pretty much grew up not so much in Jersey City, but between Los Angeles and Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my father was very big on cultural expression, artistic expression. My dad went to Lincoln. Uh, he went to Lincoln with Gil Scott-Heron and
Oh,
Brian Jackson.
wow. Crazy. I got a
And,
picture of him up in the crib.
oh
Whoa.
yeah, yeah. So and then my dad went to Lincoln because Langston Hughes went to Lincoln.
Wow.
So I like literally came out of the womb listening to Gil and the Last Poets and my first name is Malcolm Jamal, so my dad named me after Malcolm X and Ahmad Jamal.
Mm.
So he was just really big on making sure I was steeped in the arts, but also in a sense of you know from whence I've come, right? From whence I came, if you will. So I was like I remember being 6, 7 years old before taking any acting class or anything. I told my parents that I was going to either be a famous poet, a famous actor, or a
Mm.
famous basketball player.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ask about my game, ball game at least. So I got 2 out of 3. But the arts has always been a big part of my life, and I attribute a lot of that to my dad.
And also, I've always admired not only that you're uber talented, but you're an intellect. And it totally makes sense based on the dynamics of who you were exposed to young, Gil Scott Heron and Langston Hughes. Can you tell me some of the things you remember about those relationships?
Well, so it's interesting because you know, I, I didn't get to meet Gil until way later in life,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great to actually be able to. And actually I still talk to Brian Jackson. Brian was his producer, did all the music, so I still talk to Brian. So I think at this point I have more of an adult relationship with Brian than I got to have with Gil. But they were just both of those cats were really instrumental in my life, and just in terms of the music, in terms of the jazz, in terms of the mashup, because
Mm.
Gil didn't really, he wasn't really down with calling it jazz, right?
Right.
And it's interesting because even with my music today, my music is difficult to categorize. Like people wanted to call it, they want to call it neo soul, but it's not quite neo soul. I'm a studying jazz musician, but my music isn't straight ahead jazz. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I rock with Robert Glasper and Layla Hathaway and Let Us See on my records, but it's not quite R&B. So it's really, like Gil, it's a mashup of so much stuff. So I realized that even musically, where they were coming from uh, had a big impact on how my music turns out.
And so many times, and I try to pay this compliment to young people when I say they sound older than they are. You always had that. And it totally makes sense based on how you were raised. And so, can you acknowledge some of the artists and or shows that influenced you when you were growing up?
Sure. Like in terms of I was always kind of that. As a kid, I was kind of a uh, not weird cat, but like like on TV, like everybody loved Different Strokes and Jeffersons and Sanford and Son, and like I watched them because like everyone else, I was starved to see people who look like me on television.
Yep.
Um, but like the show that as a kid that I really rocked with was Benson.
No doubt. That's a
You know what I'm
classic.
saying? Right. Because Robert Guillaume's approach to comedy, like that, just that dry wit. But Benson was always the smartest dude in the room,
Correct.
and and the comedy was never uh, predicated upon being black.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing. Like when we get to black sitcoms, the comedy is for the most part based on being black, and of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I loved about Benson was just it just came from an intellectual uh, place, right?
As a matter of fact, very astute.
Yeah, man, yeah. So I think that has Robert Guillaume had a big influence on how I see comedy and how I try to approach comedy.
And obviously, you've been a part of so many great television shows. So you're a producer, you're an entrepreneur. And for me, I call those like championship rings when you walk down the street and somebody calls you one of your characters or names one of your shows.
Yeah,
And obviously you were been a part of one that went diamond, so to speak. And
yeah.
that's the Cosby Show. So how do you look back on your time and its legacy? Now it's been more than 30 years since it's ended.
Yeah, man. Look, we are, despite what's going on today, all of us, every last one of us, are proud to have been a part of that show, right?
So,
And the success of that show, like it wasn't just a popular show, right? It was a
mhm.
show that had such an a profoundly significant impact on America, on white America and Black America.
Absolutely.
So for me, it was an incredible experience because I got to, we shot in New York, so I spent, those formative years in New York, um, on this number one television show in the world, but we weren't in Hollywood,
Mm,
right? So we
right.
didn't
Good
have the
point.
Hollywood thing. We're in New York where,
Right.
heads don't care who you are,
No doubt.
right? So
No doubt.
you can't be in New York trying to play like, yo, you can't do that.
Uh-uh. No
So
business cards.
no, not right. So it was great to be able to walk through New York like that, and enjoy the celebrityhood, if you will, but there was also a responsibility, uh, you know uh, a self-imposed responsibility that
Mhm.
came with that, because I understood that I was not just walking through life and I was not just a reflection of my own mother and father, but I was a reflection of Mr. Cosby. I was a reflection of everything that the show stood for. So,
Mhm.
I had, I placed self-imposed boundaries
No doubt.
just because I knew what I was representing when I was walking through life.
And being extremely talented, and like as you mentioned, that show being so groundbreaking, what was it like for you to watch how that really changed the landscape of not only television, but how we were viewed and movies were shot and the family dynamics and just childhood intelligent young people that we got a chance to watch grow up in front of us?
Yeah, man, it was a wild ride, man. And I look back and I can say, um, uh, without arrogance, that I was the dude for that job.
No doubt.
That was my I was meant to be in that role.
Mm-hmm.
I was meant to be that representative, if you will. But it was, I remember when the show first came out, we had like black people talking about, man, that show is not realistic. Black people don't really live like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, I'm getting fan letters, by the thousands of kids saying thank you for the show. My
Yeah.
dad is a doctor. My mom is a lawyer. Thank
Yes.
you for representing.
No doubt.
So there was also that education that white America and Black America also got, because the people of Cliff and Claire's generation were often the first people in their family to even go to college.
Correct.
So their parents were going to make sure they were doctors and lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about the way the world works is like nothing gets legitimized until it's on TV.
Correct.
So the Black middle class, which has always been in existence, was finally legitimized because of that show. So to be able to be a part of the thing that changes the way uh, the entire world looks at us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a sense of pride, definitely pride, and also gratitude for being able to be instrumental in that.
Just so you know, you have brothers like me from Detroit to Chicago, like your father's from Atlanta, all across the world, stomping for you, riding for you, appreciating what you was doing for yourself and for the culture. And I can't lie, as somebody who loves rap music, as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of hip hop, one of the greatest days I recall of yours actually wasn't on the Cosby Show. Is when I saw you in Funky Beat video. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, man.
Talk to me about that, please. Man. With Houdini.
Like, but I'm talking about like the ride. The ride was just so dope. Like I've literally watched everybody come up.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched everybody on their come up. And again, I think one of the biggest blessings, personal blessings and takeaways for me on that show was because the show, out the box was number one. I've been to where I've been to a place where everybody's trying to get to.
Yep.
Right. So my life, so I didn't spend my life on that grind trying to get to a number one spot. Because I got to experience that number one spot and understand what it is, what the reality of it is, and be able to understand early on, well, it's not, as cracked up as people think it is. Right. So it allowed me to have a sense of perspective, right? But not be on that grind, like I gotta get, where you see so many people's grind is. And to get to the top, people are, especially in the entertainment industry, people are quick to compromise themselves, quick to sell their souls, right? So I feel very fortunate not to have to have that experience. And like I said, like watch I've met most of the people I've wanted to meet. I've met people. One of my favorite stories, man, Crush Groove.
Woo, classic.
Man, the Crush Groove premiere. I'm walking into the theater, and there's this cat, right? A little taller than me. He got this powder blue Adidas sweatsuit on. Got this powder blue Kango, and he's like, "Yo, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, what's up? My name is LL Cool J. I'm in the movie. Yo, one day I'm gonna be as famous as you. Watch, look out for me."
Wow, that's dope. That's dope.
Right, man.
Crazy.
One of my favorite stories, man. But being in New York, being with the popularity of the show, I literally grew up in the hip hop culture. Like I'm growing up with these cats. Like I'm 14, 15 years old at Latin Quarter, having no business to, being in there, but I'm in there rocking, right? In 85, 86, I hosted Saturday Night Live.
Yep.
And as the host, I got to, have say over who the musical guest was. I was like, I want to Run DMC. So like it was a and I know I've told the story before on another show, but another great moment for me was, we're at SNL. I'm rehearsing my opening monologue, right? Run DMC comes in for rehearsal, and part of my monologue was about me learning how to do the WAP. Right? So part of it was like
LL and do the WAP.
Yeah. So it's like Dana Carvey. So the funny, the bit of it is Dana Carvey is teaching me how to do the WAP. But I had the SNL band play. The music we used was Eric B. and Rakim's "My Melody."
Ooh.
So I'm rehearsing, and we finished the bit, and Run looks at Daryl. He's like, "Yo, D, yo, you hear that? Yo, they playing My Melody." And Run looks at me. He's like, "Yo, you did that?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, and I'm 15, so to get that look from Run, it's like,
Yes, that's a crazy validation. And also for me, you got a chance to grow and intertwine with what I consider the glory days of rap music.
Yeah.
Like the artists that you're naming out of New York City, the birthplace of hip hop, you rubbing elbows with some of the all-time dopest MCs. So please elaborate on some of the other people that you got a chance to get introduced to, some of your favorite hip hop verses, some of your favorite albums. Like, just please take me back to that 80s flow.
Oh man. I mean, PE, like, I knew Chuck. Yo, so in 80, what was it, 84, 80, 85? I don't know if you remember the Fresh Fest.
Absolutely. When Houdini used to come out bouncing on the Elite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So Fresh Fest 2, and this was because after doing Funky Beat, they had Fresh Fest 2, right? And every hip hop act was on this tour, and they wanted me to host. I think I was 16. They wanted me to host. I'm like, yes. My mom was like, no. He was like, no 16-year-old of mine is going on a tour bus for 6 weeks with a bunch of rappers. It's not going down. I was like, but Mom, but Chi Ali, like, he's a kid too. She was like, no, he's not. But like that, like I knew, Karis One, Heavy. When just when the Heavy D Du Bois came out, they were rocking the Coca-Cola sweaters. And I remember we had the celebrity basketball game up at City College, and and Heavy D Du Bois with a halftime act, right? After they perform, my mom's goes up to Head and is like, "Listen, I don't know if you know, but Coca-Cola supports apartheid." So I don't think it's really cool for y'all to be wearing those.
No doubt, sprinkling that knowledge,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
I got to direct. I was directing early on, so like my first video was New Edition's "Any Heartbreak," but my second video was Special Ed's "I'm the Magnificent."
Oh, that was classic.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Fictional style. Now can go on and on for like a mile a minute.
Because I get in it like a car and drive.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a beautiful experience for me, man, growing up.
So Any Heartbreak, that was like a pivotal moment in music, actually.
Yeah. Because you had New Edition. You had these R&B crooners rhyming.
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah, man,
they was singing, they was dancing, but now they rhyming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that became what they started to call hip hop and R&B.
Yeah. Those are the cats.
Right? And so they took it there. So I want to ask a little bit more though about this Funky Beat video. Because I just remember watching it on the box and you was popping up, you was doing your dance. That was so dope to me.
Me and Bobby Brown.
Yeah, yeah.
Pre Teddy Riley, Bobby Brown. This was
Wow.
early on. Yeah, man. And and that was cool because like I used to go, like if I was in the city where Bob was doing the show, he would call me on stage and we would like do the dance. We were doing the funky beat. And it was just that was also that's where I met Full Force, and like me and Lou still my dude. Like Lou was looking out for me. Bowlegged Lou was looking out for me since '85, man. So just even having those kind of relationships, and and just being being that being because of that video, I think being that tied into hip hop and and Houdini and being able to hang out with Drew and Jalil and Ecstasy, like that was a huge that was just a huge time and a beautiful time to be a part of, like you said, the golden age of
No doubt. No doubt. In particular, that's when groups actually exist. Now it's cliques and crews and labels, but Houdini is a group.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's a Sonic, it was the hip hop band.
Exactly. Hip hop band, no doubt. Exactly. So for yourself being an artist, and I see you got the guitars in the back, and can you please just elaborate, because you said people try to put you in a box. Are you neo soul? Are you jazz? Like, please talk to us about you as an artist.
Yeah. I've been in a very unique position in that the music for me, has never been like an income generating vehicle for me. So like I've never been signed to a record label. Like at one point I had I had interest from a record label. They were going to give me a demo budget, to do like 3 demos, and then I got with the record attorney. He was like, "Well, they're going to give you, $5,000 to do 3 songs, and they own the songs. You can do that yourself."
Right. You're like, wait a minute, let me show y'all one of these syndications. Hold
on. So once you put me on that, I was like, "All right." And again, because I was not, my dream was like not to be, this #1 recording artist. It was like, oh, well, here's an opportunity to do my music unencumbered by some record executive's idea of what is good, right? Not having a label dictate to me what my music should sound like, what kind of lyrics I write. So the music has always allowed me to be as honest and as unabashedly passionate about whatever it is that I want to speak on. So it's and because I don't never had a record label to try to put me in a box so they could sell records and have it in the a particular section of the record store back when we had record stores. Right. It's always been a real personal journey for me. So I think now when people hear that, that like I do poetry and whatnot, one, I'm very clear that I'm not a celebrity who likes to do poetry.
No doubt.
I'm a poet, and I've got to,
I was exposed to Langston Hughes growing up. You better ask about me. Like, what do you mean?
Right, from the get, like I was a poet before I was an actor. And because, again, because I don't have ties to a record label, I don't have a budget that I have to recoup, I really get to be in my own lane. And, I just released my 4th album called Hiding in Plain View in September, and it was nominated for a Grammy this past year. And, that was so, not that I was doing it for the validation, but it was so validating because that whole record, Hiding in Plain View, is a record that is, I say that's a record for us. It's a record for Black boys, for Black men, for Black people, for non-Black people who have the foresight to see that our self-healing can be an invitation for them to explore their own self-healing.
Correct.
Right. So to be able to do a record like that, and be able to talk as freely as I do about, where we are as a culture, what's holding us back as a culture, where we can go as a culture,
Mm-hmm.
being able to, inject self-love with, a plea of, plea for awareness of what it is we're doing. Because, we talk about hip hop and we talk about, and again, because we talk about being in that golden era of hip hop, and we look at hip hop now, where hip hop has become a celebration of Black death. It's become a celebration of misogyny. It's become a celebration of drugs. It's become a celebration of self-hatred. And in the midst of all of that, to be able to talk about my love-hate relationship with hip-hop, to be able to to be able to I know Mr. Cosby got himself in a lot of trouble with his views on the state of our young culture, but I knew what he was trying. I knew what he was trying to do. I knew what he was trying to say. So to be able to even address those messages, but in a loving way, because this is about us. Like, I'm still part of the hip hop culture.
No doubt.
I still have this love-hate relationship with this music I love, but its messages are really having a negative effect on the psyche of our young people.
Yes. And we are what we digest. And that's why I love the title, Hiding in Plain View. And what ends up happening, yes, there are conscious artists that exist, and their message of intellect that are being spewed. But however, the misogyny and the shooting and killing is what's being promoted.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And marketed.
Yeah.
And advertised.
Yeah,
so that's why this self-healing journey that you've exposed, that we need to hear more about, is very refreshing. What kind of self-healing have you found for yourself on this journey?
That's a great question, man. The older I've gotten, I've been finding myself doing more meditation.
Me too.
I have such a unicorn of a wife, who I'm so thankful for, and a daughter who I'm so thankful for, who both keep me really present, and keep me really centered. And when I find myself kind of coming off of being centered, I'm reminded to meditate. Right. I've been in. I think every relationship that I've been in, between hurting and being hurt, I find myself in the marriage that is a culmination of all of that. Being in a place where I'm being treated the way I deserve to be treated, but also at the same time being in a place where I continue to work on myself to make sure I'm still the person who deserves to be treated the way I'm being treated.
No question. Not that I'm the guy, I'm the king, I'm the breadwinner, so bow down to me.
Right, man. Yeah. So it's I'm in a really beautiful place, career-wise, but also, and in some ways, more importantly, in my personal life.
Well, you deserve it. And I have to ask, like, can you name your top five poets that have made an impact on your work?
Saul Williams, Talam AC, I gotta say Langston Hughes, Prentice Powell, Obi West, Ursula Rucker. So here's the thing. So Ursula Rucker is largely responsible for what I do as a poet and as a musician. Right? So Ursula and the Roots, because when I first heard the Unlocking,
classic,
I mean, it blew me away, and that was before I even started playing bass. Like, I just started playing bass till like probably like 3 or 4 years after that record came out. And when I started playing bass, I was trying to do like this jazz funk band and keeping the poetry separate. But it was Ursula and the Roots. I was like, oh, wait a minute. I
Mm-hmm.
I can combine the poetry
That's
with the
cool.
music. Oh, so between Ursula, especially during that time, it was Ursula, Michelle Indigiocello, Marcus Miller, and the brand new heavies that
Mm.
really helped me solidify. Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. And I don't want to call this neo soul because I'm not sure how long. This we're talking 98, right? Now, like I don't know how long the neo soul title is going to be around, so I don't want to be neo soul because I think what these influences are something that really might be something um, bigger. And here I am, with 20 years, 30 years later. I won't necessarily say bigger than neo soul, but it's still kind of, I think neo soul can go into the category,
Right.
but my category is not neo soul, if that makes sense.
Oh, no doubt. What instruments can you play?
I'm a bass player. I So that's really the only instrument I can claim. I'm a bass player. I started playing trumpet about 2.5 years ago. Um, I play around on piano, but that's really more from a music theory and understanding music kind of place. So I like to say that no matter what, I approach each instrument as a musician.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to I'm just a bass player, But now opening up my mind to other instruments gives me a fuller view of the language of music.
Well, I see who got the focus now. That guitar, a couple of those guitars sitting handy.
Oh
You
yeah, oh yeah.
got to get some work.
Well, I'm also a gigging bass player. Like I play, I gig all the time. I gig at least once a month. I'm based here in Atlanta. One of the main three bands I play in my band. I play bass for this dope trumpet player, Dashiell Smith, and then Dashiell Smith and I play in this Tribe Called Quest tribute band
Ooh.
where we do the tribe hits. Me and Dash do the rhymes. We do the tribe hits, but then we also play the original joints that Tribe sampled from. Right.
Yes.
So I play bass, and so part of the show I play bass, part of the show I'm doing the verses. But that show is a bona fide live hip hop, R&B, jazz, soul show. Um, so last year the band played at Mayor Andre Dinkins' birthday party,
Mm-hmm.
and we did an Outcast segment.
Ooh.
So now coming up at the end of May uh, at Truist Park, just before Braves game, we're doing an Outcast tribute show.
That's dope. That's
Yeah,
dope. And
yeah.
my daughters live in Atlanta. They've been there for 20 plus years, got a
Oh,
spot
word.
in Alpharetta. My oldest graduated from Georgia. I spent a ton of time there. I'm coming to support you, my
Oh
brother.
yeah, brother.
If
Yeah,
it ain't
you
in
would
May,
definitely.
it's going to be in June when these NBA finals end. I'm coming to see this.
Come on, brother. Come on,
Flat
brother.
out. Flat out. And I know that like you have so many interests and it's refreshing to learn. I want to give you a shout out because you also appeared in an episode of Accused called Kendall's Story.
Yeah.
And you've gotten rave reviews like always. That's what you do for that performance, which tackles hard topics surrounding race and justice. So for you, being a Renaissance man in your own right, how do you prepare for a role like this?
So I have acting coaches. I've always had acting coaches. It's the thing that I talk about often. Um, just because you book a gig, just because you're on television, just because you have music out, um, doesn't mean you stop learning and stop honing your craft, right? It's like playing ball.
Correct.
You have coaches, right? You're
Yep.
always training. Off season, you still better be training.
No doubt.
So I always, like I'm always, trying to do theater. But whatever I do, I always, consult with an acting coach. It's very rare that I even go on an audition without talking to one or two of my acting coaches. So that's generally that's one of the beginning steps. And then it's just really I think part of acting, of being an actor, is being observant. Like you watch people and you seek to understand people, because when you're playing roles, you're playing people. And you're often you're also embodying other people who have very different experiences. So there's a lot of observing and watching and researching, this kind of studying, and finding that human connection with whatever the role is.
That's well said, and that's terrific advice. And again, I'm grateful that you're taking the time, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. But before I let you get out of here, I got a rapid fire segment called Gone in 60 Seconds. You ready to do this?
Okay, let's go.
As we mentioned, the Cosby Show made a huge impact on culture as a whole and entertainment forever. What is one of your favorite scenes from the show?
Man, okay, one of my favorite scenes is I gotta say the very first episode, the Monopoly money, when Theo was getting beat in school, right? And Theo gives this dope speech about, look, I don't want to be a doctor like you or a lawyer like Mom. Like, I just want to be regular people, right? It's cool I get D's in school. Why can't you just love me for me, right? And it's a great speech. The audience applauds and everything. And then Cliff looks at Theo's like, Theo, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Man. One of my
that was one of those, like, when Mob D said, I'm gonna be in the projects forever, and we was like, oh no, dog, no, you not, no, you want to make it out of the projects. That's the goal. Okay, besides your own spoken word album, please acknowledge someone more people should know about in that genre and why.
Amir Suleiman. His record was also nominated for a Grammy this year. All I will say is, for those who do not know Amir Suleiman, go to YouTube or whatever your digital streaming preference is and look up We Must Win.
I'm doing that tonight.
Just be ready.
We must win. Failure is not an option.
Man, failure is not an option.
Which musical artist is someone on your dream collaborations list?
I mean, Marcus Miller, he would just be top because he's that dude. Her.
Nice.
Yeah, love Her. Yeah,
that's nice. So Marcus Miller and Her, you on the clock.
Yeah, man.
Make this happen. Renaissance Man fans, we've been doing this show almost 200 episodes. There have been multiple collaborations that have come out of this show. We need to make that one happen too. And last, but certainly not least, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
It's okay for people not to like
you. Word up. Word up. I needed to learn that too.
Yeah. It takes some time to really learn that and know that and be okay with it.
Be okay. And you don't even know why they don't like you. They might not like you because of your height, your weight, your skin, where you from. You don't have to do anything. Your beard, anything.
Or something that has nothing to do with you.
Correct.
And part of that acceptance was realizing, wait a minute, it's a lot of folks I don't right. And so and even some people I may not even be able to put my finger on it.
Yup.
There just may be something I don't. So then I have to allow. Well, you know what? I'm sure I'm that for some people, and it's okay because the people I don't like, people I may not like, uh, my not liking some people has no effect on their journey.
Correct.
So people who don't like me don't have much of an effect on my journey, and they are allowed to like what they like. Like, in fact, I have a song on the Hiding in Plain View album. I have a song called Dope. And Dope is really
give us a little bit of it. Give us a little bit of it. Give us a little bit of it. We here to inspire.
Okay, so you know what? I could be in full bloom in a room full of fans who I prefer to call friends. And I would gravitate to the odd one on the end who I know specifically came there to hate. I mean, you don't have to be famous to relate, right? How much love in your life have you overlooked and taken for granted simply because you couldn't stand it that the one you want to love from the most didn't love you the way you hoped? It's like dope, right? Addicted to what you can't have. Right?
Absolutely. And I appreciate you taking the time. Like I said, like, you one of the most talented people walking the earth. And as I asked you the question of one of the things I wish we would have did in the 80s, take more pictures.
Oh,
not even have pictures on. Take more pictures.
Word, man. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just think of all of the historic places you've been, people you've been around. We took, like, now people want to be liked and want to be followed. We did not take pictures. Like, yo, put that camera down.
Right. Word.
Now imagine if you was at the Crush Group party and all of these Saturday Night Live hosting and all of this stuff, you have pictures.
Yeah. You know what I love about Jay Ivey, poet, and Jay's actually the one who won. He won the Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album. But one thing I love about, like, Jay, he has a video camera with him wherever he goes. He has someone who constantly has a video camera, and you know, and Jay was a big part of the Kanye documentary.
Yep, he was.
And there's a cat who just saw something in Kanye and followed him from back when nobody knew who Kanye was.
Exactly.
But I love, like, when I see Jay, like, Jay has his, he's got his life documented. And like, I watched my daughter. My daughter was almost 6, and on our phone, she literally can watch her whole existence, like from the birth video, to when she was a baby to yesterday. So I remember when she was like, 2, even 2 years old, and we're pretty on top of, like, screen time, and let her watch a whole bunch of stuff. But the thing that she would do, she could sit there all day, and at 2 years old, figure out our phone and be able to look at pictures and be able to see her development on almost a daily basis. It's really dope to watch, because, like you said, like, we didn't have that.
We didn't have that.
So the sense of self that she's going to have,
yes,
is it's great to watch.
Yeah, she could constantly look in the mirror, learn from it, and grow from it. Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Well, much love and blessings. I'll see you in Atlanta.
Come on, man.
To the show to represent.
Yes, brother. No doubt. Thanks, man. I'm glad we got to do this, Jay.
Love is love, no doubt.